Hi, welcome to this episode of Tea of Life podcast. I am your host, Tiffany Thompson, and today I am speaking with Kelsie Stone. And Kelsie is a sweet friend of ours, along with her family. And I first met Kelsie's parents back in 1994. And we've been great friends ever since. That was well before Kelsie was ever born.
Only 4 years.
So Kelsie is a student at our local university and is currently working hard to raise money for a local program called Must Ministries, which helps provide the basic needs for individuals, families, and children. And this is why you see Kelsie with her head shaved. And I'm going to let her share her whole story on that. But Kelsie, you look absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. I got up early to do my hair.
I love it. And I mean, I'm a big fan. Like I'm kind of shaved all the way around a little bit. It's grown out some, but
I love that.
Yeah, I have like a little, it's called an undercut, but it's really just a long mohawk is what I have. So.
Beautiful.
But so I'm a big fan of the shaved head because it's so easy. I'm sure,
So easy. I didn't know what I was missing all those years with my feet of hair.
I know, because your hair was long and you have thick hair, right? Just
I
like
have
your
a lot
mom.
of hair.
Yeah, you have a lot of hair.
Well, I did.
Yeah, well, exactly. So Kelsie is also autoimmune compromised, and that has caused her to be shut in more than other people during this time. And as you know, we are currently in a shutdown due to the coronavirus or the COVID-19, ever how you want to describe it. And I wanted to get a feel for where people are right now. So after so many weeks of not being able to live life as normal, I wanted to invite Kelsie in to answer some of the same questions that I've been asking everyone in all these episodes that I've been doing. And I want to find out like her take on those specific questions and how this situation is affecting her personally in different ways than the other people that I have interviewed. So Kelsie, before I start asking you questions, is there anything that you would like to share about yourself with our audience that allows them to get to know you a little bit better?
Oh my gosh, I haven't had to talk to a person in a while. I'm an author. I've got 2 books in print, but I only talk about the second one because the first one is a book of poetry and nobody likes poetry. My novel is called Glass Dust. It's available on Amazon, and check it out because I know you have nothing else to do right now.
Absolutely. Okay, so I will put a link to that in my show notes so people can go and check out your book on Amazon. That is awesome. You became an author at a fairly young age, right? How old were you when you wrote that book?
When I wrote Glass Dust, I was, I want to say 13, 14. I was in middle school. It was the summer after 7th grade because I was assigned a project about the Dust Bowl. And part of the project portfolio was to write a short story about whatever natural disaster we had been assigned. And I wrote this short story and it ended up being not that short. And then I thought, this is like almost like the outline of a novel. And then that summer I just turned nocturnal and I stayed up till like 6 a.m. every night writing. And then I would sleep until, 5 p.m. and then do it again.
Wow.
And at the end of the summer, it was done. And then I didn't actually publish it until I was 17 because there were many cycles of editing that I went through and, doing school and stuff.
So your first book was actually even younger than that. Okay.
Yeah, I was technically published at 13.
Wow. Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Maybe
pretty
12.
Cool. So is this something that you're going to continue? Are you going to continue writing books?
Oh, absolutely. I don't write. I mean, I write because it's fun and because I enjoy it, but I also write because I have to. I think I would go crazy if I didn't. So I've used specifically poetry, but just writing in general as a coping mechanism pretty much my whole life. It's like I'll write a poem and then I can feel like the stress and anxiety like melt after I've kind of released it onto the page.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you have a lot of journals, I guess, probably stuffed under your bed from years past, right? That's something that I've always wanted to do and thought that was necessary. And there was a period of time in my life, just a few years ago, where like I took a whole year and I journaled because there was just a lot of things that I needed to kind of get out of here.
Yeah.
And it was so therapeutic. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do this forever. No, I'm not a journaler or whatever you call that, whatever you
journaler,
say.
yeah.
Yeah. So, I have good intentions. I want to be, and, I do a lot of writing for my podcast, and, so maybe I kind of journal in some weird kind of way,
that's
on
still
my
a form
podcast.
of journaling.
Yeah. Yeah. So I write my episodes and I write articles for my podcast too. So maybe, but just not on a regular basis. So it's mostly like pent up, like, it gets pent up and then I have to just get it out.
Yeah. I think the seasons come and go when it's easier to journal and harder to journal. Like right now, strangely enough, even with all of this time and all of this opportunity to be introspective and to think and to reflect, I find it more difficult than ever to journal right now. So some of my busiest seasons of life, I find the easiest to kind of talk, I guess, because there's so much I can describe what I'm doing and what's going on without having to think about it too much, I guess. Whereas right now it's like, it's kind of overwhelming trying to journal everything that's going on up here and in my life with, the situation right now.
Right.
It's daunting. So I find myself just skipping days.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was kind of something that I thought too, that maybe we would do. And even with, these videos and with my podcast, and I thought that I would kind of go through and I haven't done any of that. So
yeah,
I totally get where you're coming from. So do you keep your journals, or do you end up throwing them away?
Oh gosh, I don't throw away anything I've ever written, to the extent that like when I was in school, like elementary, middle, high school, I would write on like assignments and stuff. Like I would write poems and like little short stories or whatever. And so now I can't throw away any of my thousands of papers from school without going through them first, because there might be writing on them.
Right.
And so as a result, I just have like hundreds of folders and notebooks and stuff.
So do you ever refer back to them?
Sometimes I do go through them and I find stuff and I'm like, whoa, like I just teleported back 6 years to, whatever was going on in my life then. But the vast majority of them just sit there.
That's really cool. So one day, when we're all dead and gone and hundreds of years from now, somebody's going to find Kelsie's journals and writings and stuff, and they're going to think, what do you think that they would think about you? What do you think they would?
Oh man. Probably that I had a few screws loose, I think. And I mean, I do, but it's fine. I think we all do a little bit.
Absolutely.
Sometimes like I said, it's a coping mechanism. So a lot of times what I write, the manner that I write is very, like a little bit unhinged, because I just, sometimes in my haste to get what's in my head out, it becomes almost like a crazy scrawl. And so it looks like this ridiculous, crazy person's debut into madness.
When I was in high school, we had this, I don't know what it was called, but it was like this yearly book that came out where people would write things and they would put their writings in it. And it could be short stories and poems and, just a collection of different things. So I wrote a poem for this book and I submitted it, and it bought me a trip to the counselor's office.
Yeah.
Because, and then they ended up calling my mom, and my mom, had a conversation with me, and I'm like, I just wrote this poem. I don't know where it came from. It
means nothing.
It meant nothing. But the funny thing is, I found this poem just a couple of weeks ago when I was going through some old papers, cleaning out some stuff because I had time. And I read over it and I thought, what's the big deal? It didn't even mean anything. It wasn't a big deal. So
yeah, I have similar stories like that of just when I was in third grade, we were studying Shel Silverstein. And part of the assignment was to write a poem. Just any poem was the prompt. Just write a poem, something that rhymes or doesn't, I guess. We were probably too young to grasp free verse, but and I just regurgitated a poem. I mean, I guess I technically gurgitated it because it was mine, but and I didn't know this, but so a few weeks later, I'm just sitting there like chilling in Miss Hecox's class doing whatever, and I hear my name on the announcements, and I'm like, hello? And my teacher did not tell me, but she submitted my poem to some like statewide writing contest or something, and it won. And I didn't even know it was like in the running.
Oh, wow. Is that legal for her to do that?
I was in third grade. I basically didn't have rights.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess you're right.
And the weird thing is, it's been that poem, I think I still have it memorized. And I don't know why. It's like, I know it wasn't the first poem that I wrote, but maybe it was the first like kind of dark poem. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Okay, so the reason that I have Kelsie here, just like I said before, is because I want to go through these same questions that I've been asking all my guests. And I did send these questions to Kelsie in advance, except for a couple that I'm going to throw in just for good measure. And they're just lighthearted, fun questions. So nothing that I want you to think hard about when I ask you those specific questions that you haven't received yet.
That's fine. I love chaos.
Awesome. Okay, so are you okay? And do you feel like you are hanging in there?
So I'm definitely hanging in there, gonna make it through. That's what I keep telling myself. But as someone who's like extremely extroverted, and I'm talking like I take those quizzes online and the little meter goes, whoop, 100% extroverted. In the past few years, it's gone down to like 96, but still pretty out there.
Wow.
So all of my energy comes from interacting with people. And obviously I can't do that now. So I've been in quarantine now for, I think, 3 weeks, maybe longer.
A little longer than that, yeah.
Well, I was still working because my job was considered essential. Okay. And then it kind of hit me like, this is really dangerous and I should probably not be out. Because I have had compromised lung function in the past and being immune compromised and everything. It's just not worth it to potentially lose your life over a job or just, pretending everything is normal. So, but anyway, it's been a while since I entered the quarantine and I am losing my mind. I just, every day feels like the same thing over and over again. And I hardly even know what days of the week it is anymore. Like if I didn't have online classes that I had to attend, I would really not know what was going on.
Yeah.
Like I only know today's Wednesday because I had class yesterday.
Right. So what's the first place you're going to go once you're able to get back out again?
Oh, man. I haven't even thought about that because it's like, I don't want to tease myself with like, oh, what about when things get back to normal? Because realistically, even when the rest of the country starts opening back up, I'm still not going to be able to leave until the testing and the antibody tests are far more advanced because it's just not safe. But anyway, oh man, probably to church. I miss church a lot and I'm really excited to start going to the college group. And I've got a friend from school who wants to go with me and it's been a long time and I really want to go back. That's
cool. So you mentioned a little bit about your compromised immune system. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah. So I actually have a connective tissue disease called hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And it's considered rare, but those of us who have it and those of us in the community who are aware of it really consider it to be less rare and more rarely diagnosed. Mm-hmm. We think it's much more widespread than people are aware of. And essentially what that means is my body does not use collagen correctly. And collagen is kind of like the building block of your entire body. So it's present throughout all of your organs, all of your tissues, and especially joints. And so the effect that has on me is my joints dislocate pretty much at the drop of a hat. For instance, when I'm driving, if I grip the steering wheel too hard, my fingers can dislocate. When I'm asleep, if I roll over onto my side, my shoulder can pop out of place. If I get up wrong, my hips can dislocate. If I cough or laugh too hard, my ribs can dislocate. My neck, I have basically instability of the neck. So sometimes my neck dislocates or my collarbones will slip out of place. It's present everywhere. But further issues with that is that collagen is also present in your organs. And so I have lots of comorbid conditions that present often with EDS or HEDS, as they call it. So I have a heart condition. I have sometimes compromised lung function. I have like a hiatal hernia, which is pretty firmly believed to be a direct result of the faulty collagen. I have Scheuermann's disease, which means that there are holes in my spine, and that I broke my spine in 3 places at some point while I was growing up. Kyphosis, scoliosis, very slight, but don't look for it.
Oh, wow. So what happens like when you do dislocate something? Like, are you able to take care of that yourself, or is that something you have to go? Have you learned to do that? Is that something?
Yeah.
Or do you have to go to medical every time?
So, if I went to urgent care or to the doctor every time I dislocated, I would just be there always. So,
okay.
I do my best to pop things back into place when I can. So I experience more frequently what's known as subluxation, which is a partial dislocation. So while I have the capacity to fully dislocate things, and it does happen sometimes, what's happening more often is partial dislocations, and they are painful and they are difficult to deal with, but I do my best to get things back into place when I can. So for instance, like my shoulders, there's some exercises that I do, like moving my arm in that direction, that generally will push the shoulder back into place. Or with my collarbones, there's certain movements that I'll do trying to pop those back into place. Hips are trickier. The neck is trickier just because it's kind of dangerous to try and do that. Sometimes I do have to go to the chiropractor or doctor or whatever, because I just can't, like if something is dislocated enough, and if it's impacting the, say, not integrity, but the way that my spine is aligned, the alignment of my spine, it can make it that I can't walk, or it can trigger inflammation that kind of ricochets through my spine and causes multiple pinched nerves at once, which has happened in the past.
Oh, wow. So, gosh, I can't even imagine. So the activity that you have is obviously limited. Like how much do you limit your activity on a regular basis for this? Because I know that you still need and want to live life, and considering that you are an extreme extrovert,
Yeah.
you want to be out there doing things, but where do you find like that common ground? Where do you find the balance of being able to live life, being an extrovert and wanting to be out there doing things and being with everyone and doing everything that they're doing, but then also having to be cautious because you don't want to not do anything, but then again, you don't want to hurt yourself. So how do you find that balance?
Yeah. So it is difficult, extremely difficult, because thankfully I was diagnosed at a much younger age than most people are diagnosed. And there's actually an incredible story I can tell you about a woman I met on the Avalon Square who had all these symptoms and had spent 20 plus years looking for a diagnosis, didn't know what was going on. And long story short, God brought us together, and through our 3-hour conversation, she was able to visit my rheumatologist and get the same diagnosis that I have.
Wow.
And it was totally a God thing. It was like she was out there because God told her to take a walk, and I was out there for, visiting because my family was visiting, and all this, just a place that I never usually go. And it was really cool. But anyway, her experience highlights what a lot of the people in the EDS community experience, which is very, very late in life diagnosis. And while it's great to finally get answers, the downside of that is that, these people have been unaware their entire lives that their joints are prone to dislocations, and that it's dangerous for them to do things like you're saying, go out and even running, I can't run anymore. So thankfully, because I got that diagnosis early in life, I can take the steps to protect my joints. But that does mean having to pass on things that I would really enjoy doing. Like, for instance, I tried to take some horseback riding lessons about a year, maybe 8 months ago, as a therapeutic riding endeavor. And it was for physical therapy and also, emotional therapy. I've got a lot of medical trauma in the past and current. And I had to quit after one lesson because after one lesson, I had so much inflammation I couldn't walk the next day for a few days. And there are other things I've had to give up because of associated conditions, some things that you wouldn't even think are related. For instance, I love roller coasters. Can't really do them anymore because not only because of the danger of dislocating, but my blood pressure is so low, which is a common association. Another condition that my cardiologist thinks that I have is called postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And basically that means your blood pressure can't catch up with your body's movements. So like if I stood up right now, I'd probably get really dizzy and maybe fall down if I stood up too fast. So on roller coasters, my vision goes black because my blood pressure is so low and the G-force is so high that it pushes the blood away from my head and my eyes, and I essentially brown out. And that's just not fun. So I don't really do that anymore because I get headaches and, what's the point of being on a roller coaster if you are semi-conscious?
So what is one of your favorite activities that you are able to do?
Okay, so this is really nerdy and I'm proud of it. So I built my PC specifically for gaming and for virtual reality. And I did spend 2+ years saving money to build the PC and to buy a virtual reality system. And the one that I have is called the HTC Vive, the original iteration. And now there are like 4+ versions of that. And there's the Valve Index, which I aspire to own someday. But essentially, I like to game in VR and out of VR because it kind of gives back a lot of things that I can't do in real life. Mm-hmm. I can mountain climb in VR, I can parasail and hang glide and, go search a dungeon and shoot zombies and, things that no one can do in real life.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And actually a really, really cool part of that is now my sister and my dad both own one of those systems as well. So all 3 of us can play games together, even though we're all in separate places.
That is so cool. I love that. And it kind of gives you probably that same almost adrenaline rush that you experience when you're actually doing it. And you kind of walk away feeling like, I've actually been there. I actually did that. I think that's absolutely amazing.
It's pretty cool. And it allows me to build muscle, which helps with my joint dislocations because it's obviously a very active e-sport. Mm-hmm. If I'm firing a bow for 3 hours, it's going to work my arms out. And the tighter that my muscles are, the less work my joints have to do to stay in place. So, that's my understanding of it from speaking with my physical therapist. But so the more that I engage in those activities, which are really, really fun, the better off I am in terms of pain.
That's really cool. So do you think that this is something that you could introduce to, the community that you're in and maybe even have them, be able to participate as well?
Yeah, so I've been pretty passionate about telling people about that for a long time. And I've done a few research essays and papers and stuff on the impact of gaming on the disabled community. For instance, I think maybe 2 years ago, there was an advertisement at the Super Bowl about a new controller. And forgive me, I can't remember if it's Xbox or PlayStation, but it was built specifically for people who had physical handicaps. And maybe they had less hand movement available or didn't have hands or, whatever. And these controllers were made specifically to allow them to play games that everybody else takes for granted, the ability to hold a controller. And that's just a very small example of how technology and gaming and stuff can bring these communities together. And so I have been passionate about telling other people who are disabled that there's an opportunity for them to kind of get in on these experiences that everybody else takes for granted. And they're becoming vastly more available and less expensive. You don't need as expensive of a computer anymore, even in the few years since I bought mine. Originally, the HTC Vive went for $800. When I bought it, it was $500. And now there's newer iterations that are more powerful. So, and now there's some that are fully enclosed in just the headset. You don't even need a computer. So it's an exciting frontier, to say the least.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what are like the long-term ramifications of, what you're experiencing with your immune system?
Generally, the immune compromise part of it doesn't affect me too much, other than, like I said, about having compromised lung function as well. And to be honest with you, I don't really know how connected those two things are. There's so much going on with my health that I kind of have to sometimes guess at what's going on. So for instance, I have ankylosing spondylolisthesis, and I think I said that right, which is an autoimmune disease that attacks the spine. And I don't know a whole lot about it because, to be frank, it's just not the most important of the conditions that I deal with. But knowing that that's autoimmune is part of what keeps me quarantined right now. But also the lung function is a big part of it. So for instance, I'll get bronchitis just from having a cold. I get a cold and then I have a cough for 3 months. And I've in the past had to go on nebulizer treatments, had to have inhalers, and I don't have asthma. It's just because I get, my lungs get so sick. I've had multiple x-rays for pleurisy or pleural effusions, which is inflammation in the lining of the lungs, because I get these terrible coughs and the doctors are like, well, there must be something wrong. And there's nothing wrong per se, other than my body doesn't know how to work. But that is, I think, so far the most far-reaching effect that I've noticed. I know that there is potentially another autoimmune disease that I have that's undiagnosed, because I have had very high ANA titer results, which essentially are a type of antibody that's generally only present in people with autoimmune disease. And doctors can take your blood and look at the pattern that it makes when introduced with the solution that they use. It's complicated, but when I asked my rheumatologist about the pattern that my blood made, he said, I don't know, I've never seen that before. And I was like, great.
Okay.
And he's an expert in EDS. So okay. I was like, awesome. And I haven't really had, I only chase down diagnoses when there's a specific problem that won't go away, that I don't know what's causing it. So I've kind of let that sleeping dog lie for a while, because I don't even know what effect it's having on me. So I'm just kind of ignoring it for now. But
yeah. Wow. So you mentioned that you go to school. Do you typically go to school, or do you do your university online?
So this past semester?
Like under regular circumstances,
right,
normal
know,
circumstances.
Yeah. So I did start taking online classes partially in the past couple semesters, because I realized they're a lot easier for me. And it's difficult because the extrovert part of me wants to go to class and make friends and interact with the professors and be there. And then the in pain part of me wants to not have to drive an hour and potentially dislocate my hips when I get out of my car and
right.
all of that. And I also, some days when I was still going to class, because I had this semester, when I started the semester, I had 3 online classes and 2 in-person classes. So I'm taking more than a full credit load. And I was working 50 hours a week as well.
Wow.
Yeah. Not the smartest, probably.
Yeah.
I've never been good at rest or limiting myself where I should, but I'm working on it. Anyway, so on bad days, I would take my crutches. I have special crutches that are forearm troughs, and they put the pressure, they distribute it along your forearm instead of putting it on your joints.
Okay.
So they're actually the official crutch of people who have EDS. It's called the Smart Crutch. And I would bring those, with me to school sometimes, and it was it was hard. I expected people to be mean, and I expected them to think that I was faking, or to ask me why I needed them. And, you know, I was surprised by how kind people were and how much they would hold the doors open. And I didn't have any reason to be surprised. I just expected people, because I look healthy, to be cruel. And I have experienced some of that in life. You know, there's using handicap parking when you look healthy and young like I do. People are going to get mean because they think that they're protecting the disabled community. But really, 90% of people who use handicap parking, and I don't know quite how outdated that figure is, but I think it's in the past few years or so, don't use wheelchairs. So why are we assuming that just because someone looks healthy that they're fine? So, you know, back to the original question, yes, I try to go to class, but I am registered with Student Disability Services. And so if I sometimes have a flare and can't make it to class, my professors are really great about adopting that for me.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's really good. So having to do all of it strictly online now, it's not really affected you? Would you say that it's not really affected you too badly at this point, or except for the fact that you're just not able to interact with people?
Yeah. One of my professors is not great at adapting to the online format. And I understand, she's older, it's a Spanish class, and she was never equipped for it to be an online class because she's very lecture heavy. But that class has more or less been, okay, don't do anything for 4 weeks now that it's online. And it's a little frustrating, but you know, there's some grace to be given in this kind of situation. Other than that, my other class, because I only had 2 in-person classes this semester, my other class has done a really great job of adapting. We all get on for a Zoom call every Tuesday and Thursday. And I presented yesterday a project that we have been working on all semester, me and my partner, and we did great. And it was so fun. I have never been that excited to present for school before. What an adrenaline spike. It was great.
That's awesome. So were you the presenter, or did both of you have to present, or just
both of us presented?
Okay.
I only talked for like 2, maybe 2.5 minutes, but I was like, before I was really excited, and then after I was like,
how many words did you fit into that 2.5 minutes?
Oh gosh, probably 500, 600.
Everybody's like, wow, yeah.
It was great. We also volunteered to go first. Logged on and I was like, Vanessa and I want to go first.
And we want to go last. Can we go again? Can we do it again?
Yeah. Pretty much.
That's awesome.
It was great.
That's awesome. So how do you think that social distancing has affected you the most?
I really miss interacting with my friends. I miss being able to tell my sister, hey, I'm going to come over this weekend. Because she lives like an hour away with her husband. And it doesn't seem that far, but it's far. And like when I was still working, I realized I had Saturday off. And I was like, I called my sister and I was like, I'm going to go straight from work to your house and I'm going to spend the night. We're going to play video games all night. And then I was like, wait, your husband is still working. That's not safe. And, you know, and then I was like, well, I'm still working. That doesn't make any sense. And that kind of led into me deciding to quarantine. But I miss going to the movies. I used to go to the movies with my friends all the time. I had a subscription service called A-List, AMC A-List. You pay $20 a month and you can see 3 movies a week. And so one of my really, really good friends from my last job at Chick-fil-A, he and I would go to the movies all the time. Sometimes we would see 2 movies in a row. And we both work for the same place now, a new company. And it was really fun. And I miss that so much. I miss being able to go grocery shopping. How weird is that? I love grocery shopping. I knew that before the social distancing.
Oh, okay.
But now I really miss it.
I'm realizing how opposite we are by listening to you talk. Yeah. I'm not an extrovert, but I'm not an introvert. I'm kind of like that halfway between kind of thing. But I don't like grocery shopping, and I don't, yeah. And I can stay at home. This quarantine has actually been, we've kind of enjoyed it probably more than we should have, I guess.
Right.
But we're very different, I think, you and I.
My sister's my exact opposite. She is completely introverted, does not like interacting with people. Not only is she introverted, but she's an asocial introvert. Like, she does not want to talk to people. She doesn't want to go anywhere. She doesn't want to do anything. So she's been able to work from home, and it's kind of bliss for her, because she gets to just hang out with her husband and play video games with me and do whatever without having to go out. And she also lives really far from her job. She lives like an hour away, so she doesn't have that 2-hour commute every day. And obviously, other than all of the terrible things that are happening, she's really enjoyed the quarantine.
Yeah. So. I can relate to her, I think, a little more. I think I'm probably in that same category. Yeah. So, okay. So how has your sister dealt with not being able to get together with you?
So we, before the quarantine, we had game night every Thursday because her husband has game night on Thursdays with his old friends from one of his high school jobs. And so we would just play games every Thursday night. And now with the quarantine, it's kind of like every night is game night, because
that's how it is here. Yes.
Yeah. We more or less get together every night digitally, and we'll use an app called Discord to talk, which is a free app that does video chat and phone calls and streaming, all that stuff. It's amazing. I love that app. And they recently increased their bandwidth for people who need classes or digital, like whatever, to support people during the quarantine. And that was awesome. But I was not paid to say that. So we'll get on Discord, and we have a family Discord for use when me and my sister and my dad get on VR. And we like to play this free game called Rec Room, which is kind of dorky because it's like cartoony and stuff, but it's really fun because we'll go like fight dungeons or do archery or play frisbee golf. It's amazing. But my sister and I we'll play games pretty much every day. And I mean, we already called each other a lot. Like, I would call her on the way to and from work, on her days when she was working from home, but now she's working from home every day. So I call her whenever I want.
That's cool. So do you think that you'll continue that? I mean, after this quarantine is over, I mean, why not? Right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, she used to have a lot of social things that she had to do because her husband's family is huge. And so they have like a birthday party like every weekend for somebody. And so they would go to those a lot. And that was the only time that she was, like kind of busy. But other than that,
really, she doesn't really have birthday parties every week. She's just the introvert that wants to stay home. And she's like, oh, we have a birthday party you have to go to this weekend. Sorry. Really, she's at home. Just kidding.
Yeah, we're not included in her introversion. Being around me is the same thing as being alone for her. So she's my best friend. But yeah, Mackenzie and I have always been ridiculously close. So that's not going anywhere.
That's really cool. I love that. My 2 boys are very close as well. And I really hope that continues throughout their adulthood. We constantly tell them that even when we're gone, you guys are still going to have each other and y'all need to be the best of friends. And that was one thing that we tried to instill in them and raising them.
Yeah, that sounds like my mom growing up. She was always saying that. She was always saying, you are lucky enough to have a best friend for life, and don't take it for granted and don't mess it up. And I remember when we were young, if we ever started to fight over something dumb, my parents wouldn't even necessarily, like if we were fighting over a toy or something, they wouldn't even necessarily like fix it for us. They'd just say, okay, separate. You guys are not allowed to play together until you can make up and figure it out and be nice. And of course we would immediately get over it because we're bored and we don't want to play by ourselves. And it just kind of, it made us better at adapting to each other and better at compromise. And I could go on for days and days and days about how good my parents were at raising us.
Oh yeah. I can vouch for that as well. Definitely. But that also taught you how to, how to diffuse conflict. Yeah. Because if they were constantly diffusing that conflict for you, then you wouldn't, when you got older, you wouldn't know how to do that for yourself. So, I mean, in that, it was teaching you how to deal with conflict and how to get over it. basically too.
And equally important, they would never force us to spend time together if we were upset with each other. So, you see parents who will, like, if their kids have been fighting, they'll make them wear a big t-shirt so that they're right next to each other and like they have to. And I just think that, I'm not a parent. I can't speculate too much, but I think that that's more damaging than it is helpful.
Yeah.
Because you're forcing your kids to resent each other essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas my parents kind of did the opposite. They would say, like, if you can't get along, you're not allowed to play together. Go be by yourself. And we would just sit there and think about, like, okay, was my argument over the toy worth this?
Yeah.
And,
your answer is no. Mackenzie's answer was always no. Yes.
Yeah. And it would just be, better.
Right. Okay, so I have a couple of questions for you, like I said, that I did not send to you in advance. And I want to get your absolute first thing that pops into your mind when I ask you these questions. They're just fun, lighthearted questions, but I just want to see like exactly where your brain goes. So I've asked other people in other episodes these same questions, and the vast difference that we've gotten in answers is just, it's really cool. So I want to hear your answers. Are you ready?
I guess.
Okay. They're easy. They're not hard questions. I just want to know the first thing that pops in your mind.
Okay, bring it on.
Okay. What is something that you miss the most?
Just in general in my life, or from before quarantine?
From before quarantine. What is something that you miss the most?
Oh man. Hugs. I really miss hugs a lot. Like, I just, ugh.
Good answer. I like it. How long do you think it'll be before you go back to hugs?
See, that's what I don't want to think about, because I don't know. It's like, this could last for 3 more months for me. And I don't know what I'm going to do fiscally or, emotionally or socially, but got to just trust that God will provide, as he always has. So, but yeah, it could be a long time before it's safe for me to go back out. And the most infuriating part is, what if I already had it? What if I already had it and I'm safe? Like, and I have no way of knowing that.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, I get bronchitis from a cold. So I was really, really sick a few months ago. Was that corona or was it just a cold? There's no way to know.
Right.
So I just have to wait.
Yeah, that is frustrating. Okay, so what is something that you miss the least?
Driving.
Okay, yeah. Good
Driving
answer.
is like kind of painful for me. Okay, so like I enjoy listening to music and singing and stuff, but like generally long drives cause me a lot of back pain. And I didn't work close to where I live. It was like a 30-minute drive with no traffic or more, because it's in Buckhead. So I don't miss driving at all. We're getting dressed.
Okay, so how much toilet paper do you have?
A lot.
Do you have enough?
We've always shopped at Costco, so, more than prepared always for apocalyptic scenarios.
Okay, so how many times has Amazon visited your house in the past month?
Oh, God. Probably like 100. So many times.
I know, and I try to be good and like bulk my orders together to do them a favor, and then they just ship them separately all the time. I'm like,
they do.
You can do it.
Tiffany,
together.
I bought a tree.
A tree?
I bought a peach sapling. Yes. A Georgia Belle peach sapling and planted it because I'm so bored. It's in my backyard right now, waiting to get bigger.
That's hilarious.
Fertilize it, actually.
That's hilarious. So are you at home? Are you with your parents, or where are you?
So and this was actually very fortuitous for the quarantine. My parents' house has a complete apartment underneath it, so I rent that from them.
Oh,
and
nice.
I live down there, down here, which is great because I have a dog and they have a backyard that I make fully, like a fenced-in backyard. So she has, somewhere to be while I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
And they have 2 dogs, so our dogs all play together all the time.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Cool.
And I'm not going to get evicted if I can't make rent.
Yeah.
Because they're not cruel and heartless.
Yeah. I don't think that will be the case.
I guess we'll find out.
At all. Okay, so what have you learned during this period of time that you would like to carry forward?
One thing that is so difficult for me is I have always felt like if I'm not producing something, then I'm wasting my time, or I'm being a failure, or I'm, worthless to society. And that is a mentality that I've been fighting, especially as a person with disabilities, because there are times when I cannot produce and I cannot work and I cannot attend school, and it's not in my power at all. And it's a very toxic mentality for anyone to have, but especially those of us with disabilities. And I don't think of other people that way. I don't look at other people who are disabled, who can't walk or can't do this or can't do that, and think, wow, like, you're a drain on society. That would be terrible.
Yeah.
And I've never had any inkling of thought like that towards other people. So why do I treat myself like that? So I am trying desperately to learn right now how to rest and how to not panic if I haven't done anything productive with my day. Even if all I did was go outside and tend my peach tree or play Animal Crossing for 2 hours, or, really it's a lot more than 2 hours. But, I constantly feel like I need to be writing another book or learning a language or, getting ahead on my schoolwork, or even just doing my schoolwork. And that's, I think, something that this has really absolutely forced me to kind of come to, like, accept, is that I can't always be productive and I can't always be doing something. And it's not healthy to even be thinking like that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of normal too. At least I hope it is, because I think along those same lines as well. And just constantly, sometimes I go to bed at night and I feel like, okay, I can't let myself go to sleep until I have gone through everything that I've done today and tell myself that, okay, you're worthy to rest now,
Yeah.
And then there's times where I'm just laying there and I'm going, I didn't really do anything. Maybe I should get back up and do something, because I haven't earned the right to go to sleep right now. So.
Exactly. Yeah. You're like, what did I do today to earn today?
Right.
Why do I deserve the good things that I've experienced today, and how can I earn them? Which is such a toxic mentality. We should be producing stuff because it's joyful and because it's what we're made to do, not because we feel like it's an obligation.
Right. Absolutely. So do you find that you have been able to find new adventure during this time?
I think my peach tree would say yes.
Okay.
Well, and the bald head would probably say yes also.
Yeah, so we actually haven't talked about that yet. So let's talk about your bald head.
Okay.
So tell us what made you shave your head?
So I was having a Zoom call with my, I volunteer at Woodstock City Church as a middle school leader for transit. And I was having a Zoom call with my middle school girls on a Sunday, or it may not have been a Sunday, it doesn't matter. And we were talking about how all of us are like kind of going stir crazy, and how some of them are dyeing their hair or cutting it or whatever. And I was like, maybe I'll shave my head. They got so excited. They were like, yes, shave your head, take a video of it, show us. And I was like, oh, haha,
They're always excited when it's somebody else.
Right. Oh, yeah. And I was like, if I decide to do it, I will let you know. And then I started thinking about it. And part of the thing that bothers me about this quarantine is there's nothing I can really do to volunteer or to help ease the pressure of the social distancing on everybody, because I can't go deliver groceries because it's not safe. I can't, volunteer anywhere right now. And so I started thinking about it, and I was like, I bet I could get people to pay me to shave my head. And because I had, like you said, I had really, really thick hair, really thick, long, not super long, but long enough. And I was like, I bet people will pay for that. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a fundraiser. And if I can raise $500 within a few days for Must Ministries, and I picked Must Ministries because they're local, a lot of people know them. And I personally have been working with them for years. And they are an organization that I trust and that I know is doing their best to help people. And yeah, so I decided to, if I can hit that goal, if we can hit that goal, then I'll do it, because it's the only way I can really help. It's the only asset that I had.
Wow. Yeah. So you reached the goal. How long did it take you to reach the goal?
A little over 24 hours.
Wow. And what was your goal?
$500
to Must Ministries, and then Kelsie would shave her head. So you ended up you did a video of you shaving your head. Was that part of the deal?
It was. I said that if we hit the goal, then I will record it. And I did offer to do it live if we hit 750, but I was also really impatient to do it. So I only gave them a little bit of time to hit 750. They didn't. So we did pass the 500. I think we ended up with 540 or something like that. But yeah, that was part of the deal was I will videotape it and show it to everyone.
That's awesome. So, okay. So from the moment that you got your head shaved, how did that feel? Because your hair was longer. It was below your shoulders.
Yeah.
And, you know, like we said, it is thick and heavy. So how did that feel the moment that you got up from that
Incredible.
chair with no hair?
So great. Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, when I first shaved it, my head was like white. It was like translucent white color. Like, I don't mean like white. I mean like white.
Yeah.
Like it made my hair look gray. And I was like, is that normal? And I had to Google it. And apparently that is the healthiest color that my scalp can be. So,
Wow.
kudos to me. But I went and looked in the mirror and the first time I washed my hair, I was like, what? Because I'm used to getting out of the shower and my hair dripping for 8 hours, literally not being dry for 8 hours, especially depending on if I braid it, then 15 hours. But got out of the shower and it was like, swipe the towel over my head, dry. I was like, what is this wizardry? It was amazing. One thing I wasn't prepared for though is it was really cold.
Mm-hmm.
My head was really cold for like probably a week. Just constantly felt weird because I'm used to there being this like thick mane that protects my head. And then all of a sudden it was like nothing. Mm-hmm. And I was like almost shivering. I was so cold from my naked head.
Yep. And then your ears get cold. That's what I always wear scarves and I have to put them over my ears and everything because it just gets.
See, my hair was always back anyway, so my ears were used to it.
Okay.
Because and that's part of the reason I was fine with shaving my head is my hair was always tied back. It was always either braided or pulled up or whatever because I can't stand having it down. Just gets in my face. And
so are you going to keep it shaved for a while?
No.
You're going to let it grow?
No, probably not. I'm going to let it grow because it grows really fast and partially because I'm too lazy to keep shaving it. Because I mean, it's only been a week and it's already grown back probably a centimeter. So maybe more than that. I don't know. I'm bad at measurements. But before I cut it, it grew about 3/4, maybe an inch a month. So yeah, I'm not cutting that over and over again.
So how have you been transforming your attitude during our current situation?
I think a lot of our culture is immediate. Like a lot of our gratification is instant. A lot of our desires and wants are met as soon as possible. And so part of this has been, for me, recognizing that some things most things that are worth more are not going to be instant, Whereas before it was like, okay, I really want fried rice from Panda Express. I'm just going to go get it. I'm just going to hop in the car and go get Panda Express. Now it's like, I really want fried rice from Panda Express, but is it worth potentially getting sick? No. So I'm just not going to go do it. And that sounds kind of goofy, but I think American culture is very, very instant gratification based. And to the point where I've had people tell me that like, oh, they were in line at McDonald's and the line was taking too long. So they drove to a different McDonald's. Like, that's kind of our culture. Our culture is go get what you want right now. And we can't do that. I can't do that right now. I can't go grocery shopping. I can't, go to my friend's house. I can't take my dog to the park. And I think it's forcing us to learn patience. And I'm trying to be patient, especially because, and this is really difficult for me, I don't handle uncertainty well. Partially, I think, because growing up before my diagnosis, it took about 6 years to figure out what was going on since the onset of my worst symptoms. Medical uncertainty was always really terrifying for me because there were a lot of situations where I went into a doctor's office with some complaint. And for instance, I went in to get my lungs x-rayed because they thought I had pneumonia because I coughed up blood. Or that may have been a different time. But I was getting my lungs x-rayed and I went in thinking, okay, I have pneumonia or pleurisy or whatever. And I came out finding out, okay, your back is either broken right now or it was broken in the past and it's healed now. And they said, don't bend until you can get an MRI. And I was just completely shocked. I was like completely unprepared, completely. So as a result of all of those things growing up where I expected one thing and it turned out to be something else, anytime something pops up that I'm not completely sure what's causing it or how it's going to affect me or whatever, my brain enters what's called catastrophic thought. And I believe I jump right to the worst possible conclusion and believe it, like physiologically believe it. And that's something that I've been in therapy for a while, because it is obviously not how the brain is supposed to function. And I did not know that until maybe 2 or 3 years ago when I started going. And it is a symptom of repeated trauma, all of that. And this period of global uncertainty has brought up a lot of those feelings in me that have been gone for a while now. So while it's been somewhat unpleasant, and by somewhat I mean very unpleasant, it's also reminded me of how far that I've come from that initial beginning in therapy and figuring out how to emotionally deal with all of the medical trauma that I've been through, and that my family's been through.
So what is one thing that you would like to leave everyone with that you hope transforms their attitudes as well?
I think this period of being forced to be alone together, has really introduced a societal value on people that's been missing, I think, for a really long time. So we now as a society, as humans, are starting to really value social interaction a lot more than we have in recent years. It's a lot more like, wow, quality time really matters. People really matter. Lives matter. And I really, really hope we hold on to that as people. And I see it all the time in surprising ways. My neighborhood, I live in a huge neighborhood. There's like 500 houses. And people have organized a car parade every week that they'll make signs and stuff. If someone's birthday is happening, then they'll make signs that say, "Happy birthday, Billy," decorate their cars, and everybody drives through the neighborhood, and people will go sit on their lawns and clap and, shout and stuff. And it's just, adversity will always bring people back together and bring people back to God. And I know it's human nature to walk away from that as soon as the adversity ends. But I hope we can hold on to that a little bit longer. And I hope we can remember how important people are in the grand scheme of things, and how unimportant our instant need for gratification is, and how things that matter take time. And that's okay. And one thing, this isn't related to that, but our emotions are temporary and they tend to lie to us. So while right now I'm personally dealing with a lot of uncertainty and some depression and some anxiety and everything, I have to keep in mind that those emotions are temporary and that they will pass, and it's not forever. And so when we recognize that our emotions are not permanent, it robs them of a lot of the power that they hold over us.
Wow, that's a fantastic answer. I absolutely love every bit of that. And I hope that you're right. I hope it is something that we can carry forward. And I know that I've gotten in touch with some people that, we haven't talked with in quite some time. And we've actually been speaking now on a weekly basis. So, and I told them last week, I said, I hope we can carry this forward even when this is all over and we don't just stop and forget about each other again. And it's been great reconnecting with, friendships that I've seen on Facebook for quite some time. I've spent way too much time on social media. And, but it's been great reconnecting with people, or even deeper connecting with people that I did normally see on a regular basis. So I hope that is something that we can carry forward and continue the relationship. And at the beginning of the year, I really felt like God was speaking to me relationship. That was the word that I kept getting at the beginning of the year. And I'm not like big on New Year's resolutions, and I don't really, try to make sure that I, make a resolution and stick with it. I figure I might as well not set myself up for failure on purpose, so I don't do New Year's resolutions, but I just kept getting a word at the beginning of the year. And I felt like God was saying relationship. And along with that is friends and community. And those just keep popping up like everywhere. And so now,
so important right now.
Right. And now we're in this place to where relationship is so important. And it's so much more important than, what we believe and what we, what we do and what stage of life we're in. And
politics.
We have to connect with people, and no matter what our differences are. And so just relationship and community. That's
and the funny thing is, it's always been important. We just didn't treat it like it was important. We didn't give it the importance and the priority that it deserved. And now I'm hoping this becomes a lifelong lesson, a generational lesson for everyone who lives through this.
Absolutely.
And that we hold those echoes just as strongly as we hold the echoes of social distancing that I'm sure will pervade the next, few decades.
Yeah.
People are afraid to shake hands and all that. I wonder if that will go away completely.
I think it will, because I was actually reading an article today about how in 1920, I believe it was 1920 or 1921, when the Spanish flu was basically global. Yeah. A lot of the things that I was reading was very parallel to what we're experiencing right now in 2020, which I found very interesting. I think it was 1920 that it happened, because I remember thinking, gosh, this is now 2020.
Years. Weird.
And so even the pictures that I was seeing on this article of the military even wearing face masks, and like there were pictures of just coffin after coffin after coffin of people who had died, and they didn't have a place to put them. I mean, it was global, and it was eerily the exact same of what we're dealing with right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it spans echelons.
Mm-hmm. But, eventually things did change, and this is 100 years later. I don't know, maybe it will change in 100 years. I mean, who knows how long it will take, for that to change, but I don't know how long it took for them to stop wearing masks back then. But yeah, it was really weird when I came across that article this morning. So thank you, Kelsie. Thank you so much for being with me today. I really appreciate you making time to have this conversation with me. I appreciate everything that you've said. I really know that your words are going to resonate with someone out there, and they're going to be able to identify with you and some things that you have shared with them today. And I'm very excited about that. We'll be able to put some links in our show notes for other people who can maybe do their own research. Maybe there's people out there who are experiencing some of the same symptoms that you are, and just have never been diagnosed. And so maybe they can, look at those links that you have and be able to find a community out there of people who can identify with them.
I just want to say, anyone who has a lot of strange symptoms that seem unconnected, please look into connective tissue diseases and mixed connective tissue diseases, because they can affect everything systematically in your body. And I remember praying that there would be some disease that was causing all 28 of my symptoms and conditions. And I never thought that was a realistic prayer. And it was. There was one thing causing all of that. So just look into it, because I feel like you might really find something. And it would just be my dream for people to find those answers that I know are so difficult to live without.
All right. Well, thank you, Kelsie, again, and we will talk to you again soon.
Okay. Thank you so much for the platform and the opportunity, Tiffany. I really appreciate it.
Hey everybody, so I saved it. And thank you so much to everyone who donated money to Must Ministries for this. I'm really thankful. As somebody who's immune compromised, there's not a whole lot I can do to help people right now. can't leave the house, can't volunteer, you know. So it means a lot to me that you would help other people with, you know, the only asset I had. And good job. We raised $530 in a little over 24 hours for Must Ministries, who has a severe deficit right now of food and groceries for the people that they usually help. And there's even more people unemployed right now, as I'm sure you're aware. And I just want to say thanks. And please be careful, stay safe, make smart decisions, and continue to trust God through this. It's not going to last too much longer.